So Netflix has released all 13 episodes of Luke Cage Season 2 and I've watched them all. With Luke Cage Season 1, I thought the first half was great, the second half not so much. So I wasn't overly excited about Season 2 and to tell you the truth, I kind of preferred Iron Fist. Hello? Where the hell did everybody go?
Put the bunny back in the box.
Well, Luke Cage is back, and after the first season made it very clear that the villain there, Diamondback, didn't quite work. It was important for it to come in with Season 2 with a strong villain. And what I found the most interesting about this season is that we didn't just have one of them, we had three. Let's start with Bushmaster, who is somebody with a vendetta.
Calling from Verso Group. We are SO Verso. Don't you worry, sir. We are not here to tell you anything. The reason for my call, sir, is to conduct a very quick survey.
So Bushmaster came onto the scene with a bit of a vendetta. And what I liked about Luke Cage the most this season, and it sounds strange to say, is that Luke Cage himself was almost, I don't want to say a side player, but the main conflict, the main storyline this season wasn't one that was personal to Luke. He was, in a sense, caught in the middle. He was stuck in this power struggle and in this war that was engaged between Bushmaster and between Mariah. Bushmaster's a villain that doesn't particularly want Luke Cage dead. He'll fight him, he'll take him down if he has to, but his main target is Mariah. And the personal conflict there is really a fascinating one. It gives Bushmaster a drive, it gives him sort of a way to empathise with him to a degree. Like, he's a nasty man. Like, he'll do nasty, horrible things. But then so does Mariah. And this season we see Mariah do some absolutely awful things. Like, this is really her Breaking Bad, really, in a sense. But the first season we've seen that she does some horrible things. We see that she's not a nice person. But this season, she spends so much time trying to not cross that line that she ends up completely losing herself. And there's a moment towards the end of this season, one of the last episodes, where she does something unthinkable. This is a level of violence and a level of horridness that I didn't ever think we'd see from Mariah. And she's the other main villain this season. So we've got her, we've got Bushmaster, and we've got Shades. Shades as a character didn't do a lot for me in the first season. I like the portrayal of him. I always think he's a cool character. Like, he's got this swagger about him that makes him fun to watch. But as an actual character, Season 1 didn't do a lot for him. In Season 2, we get to learn a lot more about this guy. We get to learn what makes him tick. We get to learn the things that he invests in, the things that he finds important, loyalty, and his relationship with Mariah. And we see him take some very interesting turns. Way more interesting than I thought we'd see from him. He becomes a much more layered, nuanced character this season than he has done before. And the same can be said for Mariah as well. A lot of characters, I think, in Season 2 have been refined, have been tweaked to make them that much more interesting. And the same goes for Luke Cage. He starts this season with a real air of arrogance, in a way, about him. He thinks he's the guy that's going to save everything. He thinks he's untouchable. And he literally struts his way around Harlem as if he is invincible, as if no harm can be done to him. So when harm does come, a couple of episodes in, it shocks him, it knocks him down, but the way he tackles that, there's an anger building up in Luke that we see right from the start, as well as this arrogance, and it makes him much more interesting as well. And where he ends the season, it's really fascinating. It's a really interesting way to leave the character of Luke. If we get a Season 3, I can't wait to see what they do with him, but if the show does end here, if there's not another season, which is unlikely, we must at least get one more, then it's still a good way to leave him. It's very ambiguous. You've no idea which way Luke's going to go, and I like that. Perhaps my favourite character of the season, though, Misty Knight. She's grown on me a lot. I loved her in The Defenders. She was one of the few good things about The Defenders, I think, and this show doesn't pretend that The Defenders didn't happen like Jessica Jones did for the most part. There's very few references to The Defenders in that, but here we get a lot, and that's probably due to the fact that one of the main characters in this show lost an arm there. Misty has an interesting journey in Season 2. She is very much trying to regain who she was before, sort of within her job within the police force, while dealing with the fact that she's an arm down. That's had an effect on her, sort of physically and emotionally. And it's seeing her overcome that. It's seeing her try to find her path again as well. As I said, a lot of Luke Cage Season 2 is about characters trying to find where they belong and who they are. I mean, she's no exception. I think she perhaps has the best arc of the whole season, really. I just love this character so much, and seeing her when she gets a metal arm. If that's a spoiler, by the way, sorry, I knew it was going to happen beforehand, so I assumed everybody did. But when she gets this new arm, it's cool seeing her use it for the first time. And it's nice. I really like the character of Misty. I hope we see more development from her. And I'd be quite happy if she popped up in other shows as well. As for a character that pops up in other shows, and has, I think, appeared in all of them, except for The Punisher, we do get Rosario Dawson back as Claire Temple in this, in a very reduced role. So we don't see a lot of her, and she, sadly, really seems to be there really to serve Luke, to serve his character. I don't mean serve him as in go fetch his tea, but just to serve that character, to help us get inside his head and see where he is. And that is a bit of a shame, because I really like the character of Claire, and I'd like to have seen more from her, particularly in Luke Cage, because I thought we were going to come into the second season and see her as a main player, not just a side character. But that's really all she is here, and that, from a character point of view, is one of the biggest letdowns I think I've got from the season. A problem that's often thrown at the Netflix shows is that they run too long. 13 episodes is too much for these shows, and there's far too much in the way of filler, and there's a lot of times where the pace slows down, and Luke Cage Season 2 is no exception to that. This is, again, another show that I think could do with having a couple of episodes trimmed. Jessica Jones Season 2, just to bring that up again, would have been much better as, say, an 8 episode long season. There was far too much time of the show just dragging its heels a little bit. What I will say for Season 2 of Luke Cage, though, is that more than quite a lot of the other ones so far, this feels like it could have done with a lot less taken away. There weren't as many times where it felt like, come on, let's get on with it. It was much more of a flow to this season than the other ones. That's not to say there weren't times where it did get a little bit boring, where it did slow down to almost a halt. But seeing as other seasons have done that way more, this is a step in the right direction. I still think this season could have done with having 1 or 2 episodes trimmed from its runtime, but this is the most successful way of using the time that they've got that I've seen in these Netflix shows for quite some time. That helps by just how much is going on. As I've said, Luke's almost a side character. Like, he's predominantly there, like he is the main focus for a lot of it, but when it comes to the actual story, he's flitting in and out of what's going on between all these other characters, and it's a much better way to have Luke, I think. And a lot of the other heroes. It drives me a little bit mad when all of these shows have a personal link to the superhero, to the main character. For somebody like Luke Cage, somebody who's just out to save his city, save Harlem, I don't feel he needs to have a personal attachment to the villain. It's quite nice to just see him step in and try to solve the problem, and that's what we get here. And the story itself is really good too. It's really involved. I won't go into any spoilers at the moment because it's only been out for a few days. I happen to have just blitzed it very, very quickly. But there's lots of turns here, there's lots of twists along the way, and there's lots of ways that they develop the story. They add layers to it. For example, Mariah's daughter comes into play in a very interesting way, and she ends up being the sort of character that I did not expect when we first saw her. So that's really nice to see. There's a lot going on, but it's not too much, and it's just enough to make that runtime feel almost justified. Production values remain as high as ever for Luke Cage as well. I love the way this show looks. Netflix's 4K, I think, could be better. Maybe that's my internet, although my internet's pretty good. But yeah, I find the 4K could be a little bit better, but just the way it's shot just looks amazing, continues to look amazing. All these Netflix shows do, really. And the sound here as well, the music use is used perfectly. I'm watching this at the same time as Black Panther, that's a really good Marvel movie, Black Lightning. And the way the two shows use music is very different. Black Lightning, I find, tries to emulate a lot of Luke Cage in its tone, in the way it's portrayed, but the music's a real problem in Black Lightning. It often feels like it's overpowering the scene. There's a lot of times where the music's so loud that it detracts from what's going on. Luke Cage has got that balance right. The music is used to help the scene. It's not used to overpower it. It's not used to control the scene. It's used to just help it move along, help it have that right amount of drama in. And yeah, the music, again, this season is absolutely fantastic. And also, it feels like the violence has been upped. There's a couple of moments, more than 2 actually, a few moments where there's a level of violence that I wasn't expecting to see. And I say this as a compliment because I love violence. But yeah, sort of eyes being gouged out, people being burnt alive, this is brutal stuff. I'm going to give Luke Cage Season 2 an 8 out of 10. Have you seen Luke Cage? If so, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know your favourite Netflix shows as well. Let's discuss them. You can follow me on Twitter at JoePJulians. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Based on your answer, Verso and our marketing partner sponsors and relevant sectors may contact you via phone to market their product and service. You can find a complete list along with our privacy policy at www.versoservice.co.uk. Is that okay? So my first question is, do you read a newspaper, a daily newspaper? Yes, no, sometimes.
No, I don't.
No, same as me. Same as me, sir. Quite boring. Last three questions. With due respect of you, sir, please indicate in which age bracket do you fall? Are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or more than that?
My 70s.
Oh, you are like 70 to 74, in between that, correct?
75 and a half.
Oh, you're 75 and a half.
Yeah.
But he sounds a lot more younger than that, sir. Please
Ah.
take a compliment.
Thank you.
What make is your washing machine? Like LG, Bosch, Candy, Genucy, or any other?
We just use the bath and we hand wash.
Bosch, okay.
No,
I
bath.
need a idea on behalf of...
Bath. We hand wash in the bath. The clothes. We don't have a washing machine.
Oh, okay. And what age is it? 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year?
What, my bath?
Oh, no issues, sir. Also, my last question, I'm done. Like, please try to remember, maybe in the past, on behalf of Niagara Healthcare, do you or anyone in your household suffer with arthritis, back pain, poor circulation, or mobility issues?
No.
No. Possibly.
No. We're all very sprightly.
Oh. But so maybe possibly in the past, a very long time back, possibly.
No, all very sprightly.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That's all the question I have for you, sir. Thank you so much for your kindness and help, sir. So kind of you, Mr. Junior.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. As well as the sponsors already named, you may share your details with the following brands for them to market their relevant product and service to you. The next market is a TPA team, Homologically Limited, October Energy, Wilson Turkey, and said okay. Thanks for your time today. For any points to opt out from Versus Survey, please call 01582763090, or you may do so at www.versusservice.co.uk. Please note that Versus Group should state under the guidance of the Data Protection Act 1998. Have a great day and goodbye.
The fuck? Not 77.